Hey, what's up guys? My name is Evan Ulbricht and today we're going to be talking about the best gear for starting sports photography. So let's get right into it. First off, the camera. So right now I'm filming on my Canon EOS R5, which is a great camera, but obviously you do not need to start out with a camera like this. This is one of the most expensive cameras that Canon makes. Great for sports photography, but you really do not need this unless you're getting paid or you're really trying to pursue this as a job. I started out with actually a GoPro and then I upgraded from that to a Canon 70D. And I've even sold some prints from a GoPro at a little art fair and made some money from that and sold a bunch of prints, and basically my whole website has photos from my Canon 70D and they look amazing. You really can't even tell the difference, but it is still a great camera, and that camera was only $1,000 or less with a kit lens. So I mean, way different than the Canon R5, which is way too expensive, but obviously worth it if you're trying to make money from it or you want something really high quality. But starting out as, even a sports photographer for a school, I got my school job with my Canon 70D and then a 1 to 500 f 5.6 to 7.1 lens. So the camera or the lens is not the best for either, and I still got the job, and I've been able to upgrade since then because I've made enough money from that job to do that. So obviously that is a big thing. You do not always need to start out with the biggest, best, most expensive camera. You're going to start out with something small, even a GoPro, just to get the basics. And that's kind of how I actually started and did all of my surf photography. And yeah, now I have a big camera housing and a bunch of stuff like that. So obviously you do not need something that big. And the next thing is camera specs. So for camera specs, obviously for sports, you want high frame rate and good focusing. So most people or some people use manual focus for sports. For video, it kind of depends on what you're doing, but for video, it's usually manual. And then sometimes people use manual for photos, but a lot of it is just autofocus. So a good autofocus is huge for if you're doing sports or really surf photography, sports photography, or really any photography like that. With the new eye tracking and all that stuff is pretty amazing in the new cameras. So something like that is also something to think about. But I have gotten away with my Canon 70D till up from now since I got this. And that camera did not have any of that crazy tracking, and it still performed very good in sports. I got some really sharp photos and they really turned out great, and I still get good with my job. And yeah, still have that job right now. So obviously you kind of have to balance the pay for the money and say like, well, is better focus and a couple more megapixels worth twice as much? And in reality, it's probably not unless you're selling prints or something where you really need the high megapixels. And the last thing we're going to talk about is lenses. So lenses that I've used for sports photography are the Canon 1 to 400, and that is f5.6 to 6.5. And that lens has been amazing for mostly long distance things. So like if it's far away. So I used to use it for your track, baseball, and soccer. Those are probably the main things that I've used it for. I've also used it for surfing from the shore, and that has been a great lens. Obviously, it's f5.6 to 6.5, so it's not the sharpest lens. It's not a 2.8, and it still has worked amazing for me. So you don't have to have, f2.8 right away or f whatever 2 or even 1 point whatever right away, because it's just way too expensive and really not worth it unless you're really a pro in the industry. And another lens I use is the Canon 50mm f1.8. So that was like a $150 lens. And I used it for indoor photography for volleyball and basketball. And that worked out very good for a $200 lens. Use that with my Canon 70D. Probably the most budget setup ever. And I still got some great shots for basketball and volleyball. And that's actually the first thing that I started with my job and started working with that. So it still worked, and I got some great photos with that. So you don't always have to start out with, a crazy lens for indoors, because usually indoors you need a really sharp lens and a really small aperture because it's pretty dark in there. But you really do not need that, and this lens worked out perfect for that. And the last lens I use right now with my Canon R5 is a 24 to 70. I haven't bought a 70 to 200 yet, which I'm definitely looking at. But that is obviously a big jump and really expensive, where the 24 to 70 kind of covers everything from landscapes to 70, which can be portraits or some sports indoors, where the 70 to 200 is good for almost all the sports, except like kind of baseball, you need 1 to 400 or 1 to 500. You definitely want that longer range, but then you're going to get a bigger aperture, which if you're outdoors and it's sunny, then that's okay. But you definitely have to find the price range, because I probably will not buy an f2.8 long lens for sports because it's just ridiculous. Then you get up to the 3,000, up to even $10,000, $20,000 for a 500 mil f2.8. There's crazy lenses now, which you really do not need. Just go for the lens that you feel like will suit you best, and obviously that you can afford, and that will get you the best result. So thanks for watching the video, guys. A little short video on just the best gear that I thought I'd like to share about, what I've used and what you guys can use and what you guys can buy for starting sports photography. So thanks for watching. See you next video.